Good morning. What's up, y'all? Happy Saturday. How's everybody feeling? We got updates. We got updates. We got paperwork. Did y'all forget about Diddy? You know how it is with the media, man. Everything moves a mile a minute. We paying attention to what's going on with ASAP Rocky and all this other stuff going on in the world. And Diddy, it's like y'all forget at times, like he hasn't even gotten to trial yet, right? Like that's when things are gonna go crazy. I believe that's in May. But we still got to keep our eyes on things, the Jay Z case, the Little Dirt case, the Diddy case, this superseding indictment. Just when you think things can't get any worse, right? They absolutely can, especially in a situation like this, especially when you go out after somebody with the stature like Diddy. They absolutely can get worse. And I think a lot of people did predict a superseding indictment would eventually come. You go through things like discovery, new evidence comes on the table, new witnesses, even people that potentially can step forward in civil suits. They get turned into the criminal accusations. So of course a superseding indictment was heavily predicted by a lot of people. And let me not speed too fast because we got some paperwork to get into, and I also want to take a look at a video. But indictment, we hear that a lot, people. Like, let's not act like we all passed the bar. Okay, let's humble ourselves. Does everybody know what an indictment is, right? If you would have asked me, ARP, what's an indictment? I'd be like, your charges or your accusations when they come, then people come for you. I pulled it up real quick and I actually learned something new about an indictment. So an indictment is a formal accusation that a person has committed a crime. It is a written statement prepared by a prosecution or prosecuting authorities and returned by a jury, right? So we pretty much knew that. But when you get into how does it work, a prosecutor presents evidence at grand jury. We know what a grand jury is. Well, we've heard that term many, many times. A grand jury decides if there is enough evidence to believe the person committed a crime. And if the grand jury decides there's enough evidence, they issue an indictment, right? I didn't know that a indictment is that grand jury process. It's performed by civilians, right? There's civilians involved in that. I didn't know that. I'm gonna keep it 1,000. I'm sitting here thinking that all right, the feds done knocked on your door, they didn't came for you. Indictment. It's all in your paperwork, what your charges are, what you're facing, right? Formal complaint. But what if these people like just get together and it's just like think about deliberation of a jury when they're deciding on guilty, not guilty. It pretty much it's like happening before the trial. Like, all right, we're gonna get together and we're gonna decide on charges, valid worth moving forward or not. Like all these grand juries can be happening behind people's backs and they don't even know it. Right? You don't even know that they on your ass and they preparing these accusations. And what happens when a grand jury comes to the table and says, we have some accusations, and then they all disagree and then they go away? Does that stay on the shelf? So when you factor in superseding indictment, that should be pretty logical. That's saying we have an initial complaint, initial accusations that a grand jury agreed to move forward with, right? And then later on, more evidence is collected, and you come to the table and you say, we're going to supersede that. We're going to change that. We're going to add to that. We're going to expand that. And that's what Diddy just faced, right? Superseding indictment. So let's pull up some paperwork. This is all new paperwork that is a part of his docket. And to summarize, they do a good job here. Thank you, courts, of bulleting the actual new stuff in his superseding indictment. In addition to the allegations included in the initial indictment, the S1 indictment includes the following new allegations: additional speaking allegations regarding racketeering activity. So that was enhanced, right? That's the only way you could really summarize that. Extension of the racketeering conspiracy from in or about 2004 through in or about 2024. So they opened the window. So for whatever reason, based on evidence or investigation or witnesses or whatever is continued to happen behind the scenes from the feds and the prosecution, the initial indictment, like let's say it went to 2008, right? Now they push it back even further. They add another 4 years, we could open up further your exposure, right? Like if you did something in 2001, right? And it's not in your indictment. I assume, unless it's like testimony that comes from a witness, that it's not brought about. But these are now official charges that can be expanded into a further or a larger window of time. So that's not good. You're focusing on you and your legal team, you're focusing on your activities allegedly within a certain time period. Like you come to me and say, ARP, I know you slapped somebody within the last 12 months. When I get with my lawyers, that's what I'm going to focus on, defending that. And then they come back later and say, nah, you slapped somebody within the last 10 years. Now my lawyer's going to look at me like, where we at? And I'm like, shit, like, I whole Lord, like, we got to change our whole game plan here. So that's never good news for Diddy that they expanded the time range. And once again, you don't do that unless possibly you think you have some charges within the years that wasn't in the initial indictment. Additional allegations related to the means and the methods of the racketeering enterprise related to sex trafficking, including the trafficking of three specified female victims, victim one, victim two, and victim three, and certain acts of violence. That's not minor at all. And I don't say that with any pun. Like, no pun intended on the minor. Super Bowl's on the way, by the way. Yo, I gotta stop. All right. It looks to me like those are John Doe or Jane Doe, victim one, victim two, and victim three. We hear so much about Tony Busby and his 100 plus alleged victims on the civil side of things. And there's probably people out there with civil suits. As a matter of fact, there absolutely is. One of them was that girl who went after Diddy's ex security guard, right? That the Spanish woman that got up there on her soapbox, and we thought that she was full of shit as well because she tried to damn near extort her ex-boyfriend. Like, yo, you come in on this with me, and you make some certain allegations with me, I'll chip you off. So we know that there's civil suits outside of Tony Busby as well, just represented by different lawyers, right? That's always something that we pay attention to. And the same thing we're paying attention to it for the ASAP Rocky trial. Like, is that $30 million something that they're paying attention to when they chose not to take the plea deal? Right. The fact that not Tony Busby, Rocky's lawyer is also having a defamation suit from Relly, who's taking the stand. Right. Are they making sure that winning this case enables them to take that towards the civil side? It's no different. It goes in both directions. So you got all these civil cases, right? Will the feds go and grab any of these people? All the stuff that's being brought to light, it's like homework and investigation that's helping the feds. They're over here and they went through their grand jury process, of course, and they came with their initial indictment. They obviously had enough to go grab Diddy, knowing that he's a powerful person. He's got a lot of money. He's going to have a lot of resources. They obviously had enough to come with their initial indictment. But while they're over there doing all their homework and preparing themselves for trial that's coming up in May, you got all this other stuff that's happening on the internet, happening from these other lawyers, happening with these other civil suits. And you never know if these three people right here, victim one, victim two, and victim three, are people that got grabbed from all this outside noise and ongoing activity and brought into this. So the addition of any victims, especially when the initial indictment seemed to focus very, very, very heavily on Cassie. Just imagine, allegedly. Imagine having to fight not just one Cassie in the videotape. Imagine having to fight four Cassies. Now, of course, Cassie is the one with the high profile. She's a celebrity. She's known. We've seen the video. But what happens is, especially if these names get revealed and these faces get revealed and people get to start identifying with victim one, victim two, and victim three that was added to this superseding indictment. Once they get out there, people start looking at them. Certain people know, oh, that's Jennifer. I remember when she was hanging around. Oh, I'm the one that dropped her off at the Radio Music Hall. I just tied into Jay-Z shit messing around. Allegedly. But real shit. It's imagine, man, your lawyers. Diddy's been sitting in jail since what? His indictment came down in September. He's been in there a couple months now. And outside your legal team is putting all this groundwork in and interviewing people, and they're focusing on what's in front of them. And then the superseding indictment comes. It's like, what the fuck? Who are these other three victims? What the fuck? What is this new time period I need to account for? What the fuck? New alleged accusations of abuse? Like, we got to fight that now. We got to put defenses up and build defense cases for that shit now too. So the word compounding. All right, let's continue. Additional racketeering activity involving kidnapping chargeable under New York penal law. Shit. Let me pull this up real quick. How old do you need to be under New York law be to be kidnapped? Part of me feels like it's an ageless thing. It's not about the age. Part of me feels like that, but because it's just the word kidnapped, but we seen grown people get their ass kidnapped before, right? Isn't that what Mano got charged with? Right? Shout out to Mano. I'm trying to see if there's a quick age I could find. I'm just curious because of the minor thing that's been around Diddy's name. I'm just curious of that. Like if we can get a little poll on that. Nah, I'm not seeing anything fast enough. Kidnapping crimes. All right. I'm not gonna waste too much time trying to find it, but I was definitely curious to see if it says, for example, a New York law. I'm not talking about terminology of how we talk. Like I'm about to kidnap that nigga and extort him and all that type of shit and hold him for ransom. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the actual written law. When they put that shit right there in that bullet, I was just curious. It's like if you're under the New York law of getting kidnapped, that means that you are, 0 through 17 years old or whatever. Curious. All right. But he's facing some new kidnapping chargeable accusations under New York penal law. Additional narcotics and controlled substances, specifically whatever drug this is. I have no clue what the hell that is. Maybe I don't want to know. And methamphetamine, ouch, included in racketeering activity involving the possession with intent to distribute and distribution of narcotics and controlled substances in violation of the federal law. Didn't his alleged drug mule get off? Remember the white guy that got arrested early on too, and they brought him in? Didn't he get off? I remember when they grabbed him, they put up his picture early on. And everybody was like, "Oh, remember the Joker scene?" He was like, "I could tell the squeal is like." Niggas like him right there. He's bringing down the whole shit. There's no way he's doing 4 hours for Diddy. Like, but I think he got off. But anyway, when I see the anything around drugs, of course, like you didn't arrest Diddy because during these alleged freak offs, he's smoking weed or he's popping a couple pills or he's drinking some wild enhancements or whatever. That's not what it's about. It's not nobody gives a fuck about somebody's personal use in this federal indictment or the superseding one. Right. So when you look at that bullet that we just went over, intent to distribute and distribution, the drug dealer, like you know what I'm saying? Especially when they start talking about crossing state lines and federal lines, the gravity of this case, it's like you got abuse, you got the racketeering, you got the assault, you got the sex trafficking, you got the prostitution, you got the drug distribution. It's like people like you from this superseding indictment, you can say that. You can legitimately say Diddy is also facing accusations of being a drug dealer. These are the charges. Like, it's fucking wild. Be like his lawyers, his fucking lawyers is looking at him like, come on, man. Like, I need some sleep. Like, I cannot work around the clock for the next 4 years. Like, hell no. Hell no. All right. Modifications of the to wit clause in count 3 to include victim 1, victim 2, and victim 3. I think that's relevant to the above. All right. And we also got the superseding indictment paperwork itself. I don't think we're going to read the whole thing, but let's skim it for you folks real quick. Just so you get a gist of it. This one right here, the superseding indictment, 15 pages. Very, very clear. Says it right there on the right. United States of America versus Sean Combs, aka Puff Daddy, aka P. Diddy, aka Diddy, aka PD, aka Love. love, y'all, love. Is there any names that they're missing? I don't, I'm not trying to laugh at the man's misfortunes, but I feel like he's had more names than that for some reason. I don't know why that came to mind. I know he got more names than that. That's crazy. All right. Pay attention. Count one. Okay. Count one, racketeering conspiracy. We pretty much know all of this type of stuff. They're going over his aliases. The defendant operated his business headquartered in various times in Manhattan, Los Angeles, under a variety of United States corporate entities, including Bad Boy Entertainment, Combs Enterprises, Combs Global. I thought that we seen prior paperwork where they put the actual entities within the like United States verses as well. Or was that in Jay-Z's paperwork? I think that was in Jay-Z's paperwork. I'm just curious why they only went for his names here instead of the entities. Aren't the entities having issues too? Especially if the alleged people that help him are functioning under these entities. Like let's say your manager that functions under the Bad Boy umbrella, right? And he's the one that you're saying, or she's the one that you're saying, a madam that went and set up the freak offs and cleaned up the hotel rooms and got the pills for you, right? Oh, I'm not no lawyer. I'm just, just being observant. Um, yeah, so all of this on the count one, the racketeering guy. Look at this one, clear as day. On one occasion at a Los Angeles hotel in or about March 2016, which was captured on video and later publicly reported, Combs kicked, dragged, and threw a vase at a woman as she was attempting to leave. What do you mean at a woman? Like, when are they just gonna say Cassie's name? Like, what the fuck? Like, at what point, people? Maybe we just gotta wait until we get to trial and see Cassie take the stand. Like, what are you doing at this point? Like, all right, whatever. So we got all that. The Combs Enterprise here, they're covering all these pieces that could fit underneath so that I guess they have that broad range to go after. That's all expected, all understood. Purposes of the Combs Enterprise. Yeah, its purpose is one thing, and you're alleging that is there for another thing. Means and methods of the enterprise. Ouch. Um, what is this? In arranging these freak offs with the assistance of other members, this is what we were just talking about, and associates of the Combs Enterprise, transported and caused to be transported commercial sex workers across state lines and internationally. Yeah, that's where that sex trafficking and the prostitution, all that type of stuff comes in. It's all big charges, man. Big, big, big. But some of this is pretty much known already. Racketeering and conspiracy. Yes, we know. Multiple acts. Yep, we know. Notice of special sentencing. This is all stuff that we read prior. Count two. Okay, let's make sure we pay attention at the counts specified. Once again, those ain't changed, only compounded. Sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. That's scary to me. I don't remember us like taking a moment to talk about that in the past, but sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. Force. Grab her by the arm, you toss her into the truck. Next thing you know, she's on some plane or some shit like that. I mean, how else are we going to define force? Like, okay, scary. Fraud. How do you perform sex trafficking by fraud? Coercion, we understand. You were coerced into something. Hey, come hang out with me, and we're gonna talk about a possible feature. I'm gonna get you with Danny DeCane or album. I might sign you. Matter of fact, you got the look. You were coerced into being in one place for one thing, maybe, and next thing you knew, you was sitting in a freak off. So, but how the fuck do you perform sex trafficking by fraud? By fraud. I don't know. I don't know. But that's count two, from at least in or about 2009 up in including in about 2018. So the sex trafficking thing, they got that window that doesn't span back to what they just expanded in the superseding indictment, which was all the way back to 2004. So we're trying to say he wasn't on his pimping game until 2009, and then he stopped it in 2018. I'm surprised they didn't just leave the whole window open there. But and any combination of such means would be used to cause a person to engage in commercial sex act and attempted, aided, and abetted and willingly caused the same, to wit, Combs recruited, enticed, harbored, transported, and maintained victim one, and attempted, aided, and abetted, and willfully caused victim one to engage in commercial sex acts, knowing and in reckless disregard of the fact that victim one was engaging in commercial sex acts as a result of force, fraud, or coercion. So there goes why victim one is added to the superseding indictment. They have somebody that they're saying, yep, we now identified a person when it comes to the sex trafficking uh, charges. We want names. Jay-Z wanted names bad, right? But we want names. I'm not trying to say that they're the same case to me. I'm just curious. If I go victim, oh, I can't search a PDF like this. Some of y'all would try to pause that. I was literally trying to search the document. PDF just has a whole nother meaning, right? That's not how I was raised. PDF meant an actual file once upon a time. I was trying to search the file, the PDF file. Even people still might think that's crazy. I was trying to search the PDF file for victim one, victim two, and victim three, but for whatever reason, this document isn't letting me control F it. What the hell? That's weird. Anyway, so there goes your victim one. Count three: transportation to engage in prostitution. It gets then into forfeiture allegations. There's properties and everything that I assume would be deemed as evidence. Read this real quick. Cannot be located upon exercise of due diligence. This is the substitute assets provision. Has been transferred or sold to or deposited with third person, has been placed beyond the jurisdiction of the court, has been substantially diminished in value, or has been commingled with other property which cannot be subdivided without difficulty. Don't mess around with them properties, man. Don't touch them. Don't try to transfer them. Don't try to hand them off. Don't try to put them outside of jurisdiction. We need all of that. That's what the feds are saying, basically. We need all of that. But yeah, that's the superseding indictment. These three victims is spooky for him. Very, very spooky for him. And opening up the time window, spooky. I will get into a second after we play a little piece of this video. I will get into my thoughts on the news about the sex tape, the freak off tapes, and Cassie. We'll talk about that for a second. But this piece of this video in regards to the superseding indictment kind of interested me. You know, we talk a little bit here about some of the possible defenses. All right, let's take a look.
There was also another line in the superseding indictment that was new, and I want to tell you about it. It says on page 6, in connection with the commercial sex acts, Combs provided the victims with, among other things, monetary payments, career opportunities, and payment of rent and housing expenses. That is a new line. And it seems to me what they're really trying to do, prosecutors here, are trying to explain the commercial element of these acts, providing or promising something of value to coerce these people into doing this. Now, by the way, the defense will say, look, Sean Combs, if these were his girlfriends or these were his romantic partners, don't boyfriends pay for gifts? Don't they give them money if they need it? Don't they help them out? This is not sex trafficking. This is a relationship. That is what I anticipate we will hear from the defense.
I never thought about that. Why isn't that a clear defense in that particular scenario of coercing people into sex trafficking? That should, I don't know. I don't know. Because, like, if I'm the defendant in this situation, I got no problem with my lawyer getting up there and saying, like, yo, ARP is just a fucking, he's a trick. he's a clown when it comes to these women. Like, like he met some girl, he liked her, or he was attracted to her, so he bought her a car. Like, you know what I'm saying? Or he was interested in this woman. They had a good conversation, and then he paid her rent off for a year. Like why is that not a clear defense? Now, the common sense of it is just like that. Come on, son. Like, we don't believe you. You need, but this is still court. We're gonna see Relly get up there and say some of the stupidest stuff because it's not always about common sense. You try to play to the fiddle of what you're putting down on record, right? But I think that that is very logical, to be honest. If I'm on the jury, then I'm just like, maybe you are tricking off in certain regards. Cassie, she gets a crib. J Lo, she gets a boat. But this victim one that we never heard of before, we never even seen y'all in pictures together. You really want to convince me that you gave her all this other lavish stuff? You know what I'm saying? And she's accusing you of something. She's up there on the stand saying that you did XYZ to her and abused her. You want me to believe that there was no coercion here and you didn't pay for these things intentionally? Nah. When I say intentionally, you know what I mean, as far as like aiding within the sex trafficking. So interesting defense there, but I don't know.
Okay, now we have another big change in this superseding indictment. Actually, it's a whole new paragraph. This wasn't in the original indictment. This is the new paragraph in the superseding indictment. Quote, other commercial sex acts involved only Combs and a female victim. As with freak-offs, other members and associates of the Combs enterprise assisted with arrangements for these commercial sex acts, including by arranging travel and accommodations for victims. At times, Combs, with the assistance of other members and associates of the enterprise, transported and caused to be transported victims across state lines and internationally in connection with the commercial sex acts. Like the freak-offs, these commercial sex acts involving Combs and a female victim were prearranged, sometimes lasted multiple days, were sometimes electronically recorded by Combs, and often involved Combs distributing a variety of controlled substances to the victim, in part to keep the victim obedient and compliant. So that is very, very similar to the description of the freak-offs. I guess what's happening here, prosecutors might be looking at their case and saying, we're going to describe these alleged illegal sexual episodes, these instances of sex trafficking. And if the term freak off wasn't used or it's not characteristic of a freak off, then a jury could look at this and say, prosecutors, I don't think this is a freak off as you described. But now broadening it to say we're talking about generally illegal commercial sex acts that may or may not be freak offs, that is how they're trying to win this case.
That is just incredible to me, people. It's incredible that what could be used or what we thought is used as pretty much just industry talk, right? White party, Diddy party, a freak off, right? It's used as such a strong definition legally in this whole case, to the point where it's just like, wait, that particular situation, that sex night or whatever, that's not categorized as a freak off, but this is like it's incredible, B. It's incredible. And I say that to say this. When we think about some of the recent stuff that came up, right? It was the tapes. The tapes. So it was within like the last 2 weeks. It was pretty big news. And I admit, like, when there's big things like a superseding indictment, then yeah, we got to be here for it. But I think, like, obviously, just like the Little Dirk thing and just like the Jay-Z thing, there's these big moments, but everything else in between that is like a lot of procedure until we get to trial. And that's where there's going to be a lot of things we're going to have to talk about and cover. But them tapes recently within the last 2 weeks, where Diddy's side pretty much felt like they had a big win. A lot of Diddy supporters felt like he had a big win. That the tapes that were reviewed were of consenting adults. And I believe Cassie was on the tapes, right? Like when they watch it, these porns on these porn videos or whatever, they're watching this shit like, look at Cassie right there. Like she's gesturing, she's pleasing people, she's fully engaged. She's, like, I don't gotta get descriptive of what we assume is on them tapes, right? But that is a win for Diddy, especially being that the whole freak off thing is used so with so much relevance to categorize what you believe is happening illegally, right? With under the Combs enterprises. some of y'all want these damn tapes to come out because Cassie is on. You're like, yo, at the end of the day, it's just another sex tape. We saw the Kim Kardashian one. We saw the one with Eve. Like, yo, keep them coming. Some of y'all is like that. I just want to see Cassie. I see y'all on Twitter. But let's keep it 1,000, y'all. If he's able to from a defense standpoint, continue to beat up on that point of consenting adults, it's a big, big win. But when we look at the superseding indictment and we stress, yo, look at all this other stuff. He's literally being, charged as a drug dealer. Cassie doesn't fit the whole allegations of the drug dealing stuff, right? I don't even think that she fits the description or fit within the charges of the sex trafficking. Right there, you see victim 1 put in. Victim 2 is in there now. Victim 3 is in there now. These are people that are all complementing some of these other charges, right? And some of the other stuff that's going on in his case. Cassie, you can possibly even get her off the table. It's possible. You can the same way that Rocky is going at Relly, like, yo, you this is a money situation. You was with me all these years. You had your own disgruntled nature. There's times where you beat up on me too. Even the allegations that she was running from a freak off in that hotel footage. The charges there that he's facing isn't for like, oh, you assaulted Cassie. That's not what he's fighting. That's why we're all disgusted at him, but that's not what he's fighting legally. So if you're trying to, come into court and you're trying to prove out that she was escaping from a freak off, and then you put these videos out saying everything that you submitted as evidence and visual footage as a freak off that involved Cassie, we all here agree that it was consensual. So now do you really believe that she was running from a freak off in that video? No, but you beat the shit out of her. But that's not what I'm fighting here. If y'all want to charge me with that, charge me with that. I'm not here for an assault case. Right. And that's where shit gets a little bit more gray. And it's like, oh shit. And then we'd be wondering how these people that we look at and be like, yo, you're a dirty piece of shit, beat some of these charges and beat some of these cases. This is how. So I do think that he had within the last 2 weeks some big wins, but the superseding indictment said, oh, wait, buddy. We got more for you. We got more going on here, and put them lawyers right back to double time work. So we'll keep our eyes on it. But yeah, I think it was very relevant to go over the fact that Fez and dropped that on him, and it is what it is, man. If he's guilty, he's guilty. We still don't fuck with Diddy as a person. That's never gonna change. He can be found innocent. I'm just gonna be like, I'm good on him. Like Diddy, like I think he's a nasty person regardless, right? But legally, we want to see how this all plays out for him.
Don't confuse silence with work ethic. I'm a boss making decisions, my first fetish. The verse cherished is perfect, that's a reverse blemish. I dropped it, connected the block, learn Tetris.
This is the Sorry True Podcast. Welcome to the house of. And shout out to the members.